This is Earl Baylon.
Give it up!
Also, an associate producer of the film, yes. And of course, last but not least, he was also featured in the first Lumpia movie. Very good friend, we grew up together. He played Tyrone. Give it up for Edward Baon.
Yeah!
Alright. So, now that you met us, and you've seen us draw, and you got to know a little bit about us before the panel, let's take you back how this movie, how Lumpia the movie actually started. It actually is, Lumpia the Vengeance is getting a lot of play, but it actually started with a original movie. I know some of you have seen the original film, very homemade. It was shot in Daly City, California. This is what the movie looked like.
What are they going to do to us anyways? Well, I'm not gonna stand here and find out. What's up, man? You speak English? Maybe. One of these days, Kelly will pass by. That girl Kelly, he's driving the orchestra. Who? You know, Blood. Lumpia Farm. Oh my God. What do you guys want? Just leave us alone, okay? Just remember, I know where you live, Blood.
Yeah!
Father got in our sometime. Come on out, move!
So, Lumpia, the original Lumpia movie, was actually released finally in 2003. It was actually shot back in 1996. So that movie was shot in Daly City. But even then, that movie was actually a reunion of us, actually, because we had started making movies when we were kids. And so and the other panelist here, Edward, this is for Edward. We grew up together. Edward, how did you get involved with Lumpia?
Well, to be honest, I'm guilty by association, I guess. My friend Pat decided to cast me in his latest movie, but before that, we were a bunch of elementary school kids. I remember doing movies with Pat since we were like in 6th, 7th grade with Kid Heroes. Oh my goodness, he had footage of it. Horrible acting, camcorders, just kids just having a good time, and look at that cinematography, special effects. So this is how it all started, y'all. It was just us, a bunch of kids just doing movies for fun, and premiering it at the end of the summer, having a whole bunch of aunts and uncles come over to the house just to premiere the movie, and just us acting out like this is what kids do, and then it grew from that to Pat going to film school, and from there it got real, from camcorder to actual film. And I remember my first day on set when we were filming Lumpia 2. Pat said, okay, I'm gonna screen you in our movie. And I'm like, okay. So thinking that he's gonna feed me lines like he normally would during these little shorts, right? And I didn't know that I actually had to read and memorize a script. I'm like, you never used to make me memorize anything. He just said, here, say this and act this out. Okay. But then when I finally got on set and actually saw a film crew, professional and acting with professional actors. I mean, Joey Gia was actually in that scene with Darian Bosco, from Debut, and I got a little shell shocked. I was like, "Oh no, this is for real!" So, just that being able to, get that culture shock of what it was from back in the day, having fun, to this is for real. You guys, this is, no pretend acting here. This is, so I had to really step up my game to keep up with people like April and Earl here who are professional actors and actually went to acting school. Highest level acting for me was like 6th grade drama class, pantomime. But here we are, filming this film.
And if you see the new film, I think you have to give credit to Edward. I mean, he really knocked it out of the park with Tyrone. I mean, Tyrone was the villain of the film, but I think a lot of it, yes, it did start in the neighborhood, just as kids, just wanting, just have fun together. And I don't think any of them realized that the first Lumpia movie would take off the way it did. I think
Yeah.
Variety, like when we premiered in Hawaii back in 2003, that movie, even though it was homemade, you know, like one of the reviewers in Hollywood, like saw something in it, and that review really propelled us to do more things. So one of the histories, has anyone actually heard of the movie The Debut? Yes, very historic. So that movie, I was one of the producers of the film. We toured around the country with that almost 20 years ago. And if you saw the movie in theaters, most likely that was myself or Gene, the director, or a lot of us young kids who drove around the country. And a lot of that, what was so cool about that, I mean, we all live now in a world that where Easter Sunday is making waves as the first studio film, making Filipino American film. But back then, 20 years ago, we had to build that audience from the scratch up before social media. And so all of us, this is us, you know, driving our cars cross country. Back then, the reels were in the car, right? There was no digital transfer. So we would drive the car all the way across country twice and play it in major theaters. We played out here in Seattle, in Meridian. We played in a couple of places in Renton and stuff, and you know, but that was empowerment in the community. And so, you know, you talk about us community building, right? And this, we all in the comic book world, we all talk about this whole thing of universe building and creating your own universe, right? In our universe, it was building a community, the sense of community building. So when I got involved with The Debut, I saw with my own eyes that even though I grew up in J City and saw just very spoiled being surrounded by a big Filipino population, that there were other pockets of Filipinos outside California that were really hungry, literally, for representation. And so I think a lot of that spilled really to us when The Debut came out, really put Lumpia out there. So Lumpia was actually placed out there because we were confident and motivated by The Debut's reception. And then following that, going through a quick timeline, myself and AJ Colamai, head of Xylophone Films, we teamed up to create music videos. Obviously, we were inspired by a lot of the Filipino American artists, musicians we were meeting on tour that provided soundtracks or songs to our movies for free. In return, we felt like we needed to promote them, and we did music videos. Obviously, the music videos we did were for independent artists, but it spilled over when we were given an opportunity to shoot for the Black Eyed Peas with the Apple song. And that, again, was playing in a different format, playing with Apple, and then that led to Bebot, two versions of Bebot. And we were still playing the game. We were still doing music videos for Native Elements, for Bamboo, Rocky Rivera, Hopi Spitzhard. I don't know if these artists feel familiar, but little did we know that we were building our community of filmmaking. In a sense of trying to, in our own platforms, trying to build representation inspired by The Debut and just us building together. And Lawrence here is how we met Lawrence. And so, I mean, Lawrence, why don't you talk about how in this phase, as we were making productions, how you stepped into the picture?
It's funny, is that Pat was been touring with both The Debut and with Lumpia. And it hit where I was, and at the time I already had worked in films and became a professor. I was a professor teaching film both in the university and over at the community college. I actually heard about the works that he was involved in, not specifically about Pat, but the works and the community. So much so that I just suddenly realized that Lily brought me in from when she was still in school. One of a fellow classmate who was still in school, after I graduated, told me about Pat's work and whatnot. And I still didn't know it was Pat. I didn't know it was him. I just knew about the works. So the works were out there, and the community was being built. And I was hearing it because I was a professor, hearing it from students, young folks that were coming into my class and talking about Filipino filmmaking. And the reason why they brought it to me is because I was mainstream. I worked on Matrix. I worked for Pixar. I worked for Lucasfilms at the time. I was fortunate enough to land that through my school and work professionally, both as an intern and as an assistant. Well, lo and behold, one of those students that was working, or a few of those students that happened to be working with Pat, came into my classroom hungry to learn about how they could be more efficient to help out Pat and the crew. And they said, you gotta see this film. Well, Pat's film actually came to my college, And I saw it for the first time, and it happened to be Lumpia. And I also saw the debut on my own because of these students. So the community affected me by hearing it directly from the students. It piqued my interest. And I got a chance to actually see the folks that we work with today. And that's when his partner, A.J. Calamai, actually contacted me through one of my students saying that you should get a hold of Lawrence. You should get a hold of Lawrence. Lawrence is this professor, and he knows this. And AJ and I spoke online, and next thing you know, he said, "What can we do? We're working on this music video." And then, bam, I became Pat's first assistant director, first AD.
And this was the thing with resources, right? We never really had budgets really to shoot some of the music videos because we were doing it as favors. So whatever little money we had, we were kind of, it was paid out of things, rentals, what have you. And so the biggest resource for us was finding people to fit in our puzzles. We were building a filmmaking team who can, up our game. And as a director, you're trying to, make yourself better, but at the same time understand the budget's not there. So we're also trying to, what intrigued me about Lawrence was the fact that he was a professor who was teaching at Loyola College, and he had students who were learning the game. So it felt right to shoot some of our music video projects, and the students were involved. He made their thesis, and so it felt really cool. Like you're putting there's nothing. It's always the best feeling when you're able to teach someone and push your knowledge of the game to other future potential. Because that's the hardest part of this industry, right? Getting that experience, right? So to give that experience to someone who's craving it was really cool. Yeah.
We had students that became professionals because they were working with Pat over the next 8 years. What a great opportunity to be a professor, teach them the theory, but then their practical was, hey, I'm going to be working with Pat. Do you guys want to work on this? And so Pat's project came into my classroom, and we became the crew. And because under my guidance of being the professor, it was safe. It was safe for them, and to actually experience what it is to be working with a first AD, with a first assistant director, which is, if you don't know the film world, the first assistant director is a very hard person. He controls the set. He even bosses around the director.
He's the nicest AD. That's it's a good thing. Sometimes it's kind of hard because we're all family.
But the first AD is like really the hard person. He's like Moses. The best way to say he's Moses, and whatever he says, the staff is waving around and things happen. And so to have that ability to bring these students, like 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, somebody who really wants to do film, who's hungry, and possibly would not get the opportunity to work on a film or a video, specifically even Filipino, even something diverse, to get that chance. Here comes along this chance to bring a director who's worked with the Black Eyed Peas, who's worked on videos and film, and give these students a chance. And so that became our crew. I got a chance to bring the real world for my students as professionals, and Pat got a chance to work very closely, act as a mentor, pass on these things directly, more personally, answer questions that they would have never had with a director, and to see what community made was all about. And it was our greatest growth, our greatest, I wouldn't say experiment, but it allowed us to see what worked and what was to come later on.
Well, yeah, what it allowed us to do is we really want to go past the small format. So obviously the goal is to make a feature film, and that was always something that we wanted to do to follow up. But what movie do we take? And so we did this whole Kickstarter. And crowdfunding was a pretty big 10 years ago. Everyone was doing it. And so when we decided if we were going to make our first crowdfunder, what would it be? So why not a movie that already had some sort of cult following with the original film? And we announced it on our 10th anniversary of the first film that we were going to crowdfund the movie. Now that movie was a crazy crowdfunder because it was one of those things that we were asking for a little money, and this is what happened on the final day.
Okay. And so I need to know, anyone from the message boards wants to add to this?
We made it.
Twitch wasn't even involved. This was on Google Plus. But Earl Baylon, Earl. So how when you saw this, what was going in your mind? What was going? Where were you at this night? Do you remember?
I remember me and Justin were like sitting. We weren't on this particular call, but we were on maybe Facebook Messenger. What was the technology back then? I don't even remember.
AOL? No, not AOL.
Friendster?
Vision Avenue? I don't know.
But we were sitting there like because I think the part that we failed to mention is that we were 10,000 down.
Yeah, 20.
20,000
We were
down.
20 down.
The day
Last
of.
night.
And so we were sitting there kind of telethoning, kind of like supporting each other over Google Meet,
Google Plus, I think.
Google Plus, I guess. And AOL over Skype, TeamSpeak, I don't know. But yeah, as it counted down, I was sitting there like, I don't know if we're gonna make it. We have like 1,000 left to go in like 10 minutes. And literally that moment you saw was maybe with what, 10 minutes left?
10 to 15
Like
minutes.
10 to 15 minutes left. So when it happened, it was just this wild outburst of emotion through like off every channel, and you can't really see the chat, but the chat is going off.
Those are the students that we were talking about. They're
Right.
the background. Those are the actual students that has been working with us. And they were hustling. They were calling people, trying to get $20, $30. I mean, one of my students, Megan, who's my first, she's one of my assistants, and we were at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at that nighttime, and it was Sunday, and just the stress that was on us, like, we don't know if we were gonna raise that money. And because if we didn't raise that money, all of it had to go back, right? I mean,
Yeah, it was do or die. I mean, so there's a kind of to this madness. We didn't want to do a flex spending thing, and for us, really, since the debut, we wanted to know, 10 years later, did people still want to see another Filipino American film? It's been that long since a movie of that stature, and even though there've been other Philan films, but something that has created a phenomenon. Were people still interested in that? And that's what we used the crowdfunding for. Even though 50,000 we knew wasn't going to really be enough to make the movie, it was something that would get us going in development funds.
I mean, especially we knew Pat, as you saw, the original film again was done with home cameras, not even like high-end home cameras. They were done with
Camcorder.
Well, video 8, not even high 8, not even high 8, video 8.
edited off of like
Videonics.
And then if you wanted a copy, it was like the VHS with the little tape over it so that you could
Not even
copy
that.
over.
That was too complicated.
No, seriously.
That was too complicated.
That was our technology.
That was a
back
transformer. That was a headmaster transformer VHS tape.
then. No, but on a serious note though, guys, this was like a very humble beginning movie because honestly, we didn't get big funding from major sponsors or anything like that. It came from really people like you who believed in us to put this movie together. So that's what it was. So and my hat's off, to you guys, because you guys are the ones who put this, made us do what we did and what we love doing.
I mean, even the funny thing is, this movie is called Lumpia with a Vengeance. The amount of Lumpia companies that turned us down to make this film is just unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. We couldn't get those.
Well,
rights.
I mean, to be fair, and that's the thing, right? When you have an idea, it's hard to convince. How do you convince people to buy in on that? That's always the hardest part. Even when you're building any team, right? When the Avengers have to get together, there's always a certain buying. Why are we even together? So to even come across a movie, what would it take to get this many people to put in their money? Any project we do. With Lumpia, it wasn't called Lumpia Avengers at the time. So for us to go in the sequel, we were going off, hey, did you like the original movie? Great. But I don't think the people who came in, that the viral that we went, so for some reason, I still don't get what happened that final night, went viral. I don't think it's because they saw Lumpia 1. It was because of the message that they were hungry for representation. They saw that we were trying to do a Filipino-American film. We were unabashedly Filipino-American. We weren't pretending to be Filipino. Like, we were really making a movie. And so it didn't matter where the funds were coming from, but it was, what we're so proud of, that it came from for the people. And so what came now, at this point now, is once we hit the goal was, oh crap, what do we do now? Now we got the funding. So, but that was the cool part. I mean, imagine as a creator, you're trying to create a project, right? And at any point you could give up and you wanted to, you couldn't, because there's now an audience waiting for you, and that was what was always lingering. As we go this journey, I mean, we still have half an hour, and we're still at, this is 9 years ago we crowdfunded this film. So can you imagine from that point on what obstacles that had to happen to get to the point where we are today? And so with Earl just finishing up, we were developing it. The first thing we had to do was create we had to write the script, because we only had an idea or a rough draft, but was finding a writer. And so now, again, building your universe, building your team. And the reason why we went to Justin Keyson and Earl Baylon, I call them my, what kind of consultants do I call you guys?
What is it?
The nerd consultants, right? Because we spoke the same language in terms of like, and if you know the wacky movie that's coming, but we wanted to put all that into this film.
I still remember the first thing that Pat assigned me and Justin with was like, how Batman has like everything is bat themed? Think of everything but Lumpia. So we sat there and we're like, all right, Lumpia, throwing stars, an extendable Lumpia.
Oh, you guys have to see the rough draft drawings of when you talk to who was it? When you did the first?
We're gonna get to that.
You have to see what Lumpia, the lead character played by Mark Munoz, was supposed to look like. I mean, they thought he was gonna look like a really, hardcore, all this stuff, gadgets and things like
Basically
that.
Predator, but with Lumpia.
Yeah, and of course we didn't have the money to have all those things.
But see, that was the fun part, right? I mean, when you're cooking, you're prepping. I think that was the one thing that we wanted to do was, okay, I didn't want to be just me planning it out. I think it was important for me now to build a team, because we did that. We were so used to production. Well, let me open the door and see if there are any contributors. And so Earl suggested, and we had other guys, Bernard coming in, Lillian came in. We would do these meetings and we would eat, because we would always get hungry. So we always had to end our meetings with a really heavy meal. But once we did come down to it, of course, when it was time to shoot, it was about casting, right? And so when we came to the audition door, it was about who would play our lead, and we came across this person.
Yeah.
Ow! Yo, chill, man. Time out.
Square up, that's for my dad.
Sweet.
Bring me the Lumpia Man. Bring me the Lumpia Man.
These are the actual cast.
Bring me the Lumpia Man.
And they got the part. April, so do you recall that being in that room there?
Yeah, it was weird, because it's like the moment that I stepped out of actually your son is the one who brought me up the elevator to the audition room, and I didn't know he was your son, but there was something about walking into the room and it already felt like family. Like, I'm not even kidding you guys. I had gone to, auditions growing up as a kid. I had taken a long break from acting. Actually, some of you were in the room when I was talking about my ex. I hadn't acted or done anything artistic in that entire time that I was in that relationship. And so, boo! And so about 3 months after that relationship ended, and immediately after that, I decided I'm going to go back into acting. I put myself out there, and then about 3 months later is when the casting notice came up for Rachel. And it was just so crazy how serendipitous that was, that those events came out in that order.
The role description.
Yeah, that was a trip too. This casting notice said they were looking for a Filipino American high school student from like the Bay Area, Daly City, and I was like, wow, this is oddly specific. I'd never seen anything like that in castings, and so I was like, it would be really stupid to not take a chance at this. Even if it didn't work out, you still gotta try it, because you're never gonna see that again. And so I did, and I'm really glad that I did, because it had blossomed and unfolded to us being here in front of you guys right now.
It's more than a film, right? It's a family.
It's a family. No, and I'm I'm being real with you guys. You know, sometimes people like to sugarcoat things and make things salesy and convincing, but like I'm telling you, it was really just a family. And then you walk in on set and it was like a party. I mean, a professional people were there. We were, you know, actually working because money was on the line, of course. But you know, you're talking about an AD here who's like the sweetest guy ever, and ADs tend to be
A-holes.
Yeah, it's taskmasters.
Because they have to be. You're on a deadline all the time, and so they have to be very strict. And he was still making magic happen in that timeline. But that's what I'm saying. Like it just, I'm really glad I took that chance, because if I didn't, then I wouldn't be here with you guys.
She came in just like this. I mean, my partner Lisa Chung, who's not here, April literally is the same April that what you're meeting right now. Literally is the girl that came in. The moment my son brought her in, I was like, my mouth just dropped. It was like looking at Pat's script, like the description of like the character come to life. You know, just like having a female that represented this movie.
Can you compare the fact that Katrina was also on this here,
Right after her.
and April both coming in to audition like this, like a normal audition, yet Edward here, he auditioned for me a long time ago.
That's me messing up my lines.
Yeah, right. My name's Ed. And we're just sticking around just to have some fun. Right. This is me. Yeah, right. Me and my.
How many takes is this, Ed?
Yeah, right. My name's Ed, and we're new in the neighborhood, and so far it sucks. Yeah, right. Me and my.
I think I was like
Yeah, right. My name's
Let's
Ed.
get
7th
Like
grade.
10 takes,
I think I was in 7th
We're new
grade.
in the neighborhood. I'm so sorry.
this is gonna be
Yeah,
And
I
we were
was.
just sticking around for some action.
How old were you there?
Maybe like 13 or 12 or something.
Those glasses, wow.
I know. And you know, those weren't even real glasses. I just thought they were cool.
They were cool.
But thank you.
Yeah, you pulled it off, dude.
So Earl, talk about you're involved with being the developing the script wise, as well of course being an associate producer, but you also play a part in it. How did you get this part in the movie?
Okay. All right. So there for the longest time, I think one of the scenes that changed a whole lot just over and over again was the very opening scene, and of course it's one of the most important parts of a film. So there was one constant, and there was always the guy that sold the Lumpia, ran a Lumpia truck, and for the longest time he didn't have a name. The name changed. We had different actors envisioned for that, and finally one day, this is after like not really placing anybody there. One day, Pat called me up and he was like, "Hey, can you stop by my office? We're gonna do like a live reading on Facebook of the first 15 pages, just to get like some hype built." And I went over to his office,
Which was Coffee Bean, by the way.
Yeah, Coffee Bean by his office, and we started reading, and then he goes, "All right, cool, that's good enough." Well, I'm here to offer you the role of, at the time it was Beyonder, of the Beyonder, and I was like, what? So him and Justin, like I guess you guys are talking about it, and to offer me the role, as a surprise to me, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be in the film too. This is after like 6, maybe 4 years maybe of just I was just going to be on the production side, had no designs on being on camera for this one, and Pat offered me the role and I became G-Dog.
And he did an outstanding job, by the way. Yeah.
You did.
Lawrence, talk about the like being on set, right? What was you always talk about family feel, but the fact that the movie, why do you think the movie took so long to make? Because we did shoot and then we had to stop.
I mean, a lot of it has to do that we were really working with what we had. I mean, we were working with such limited things as far as like locations. Every bit of this film really is in Daly City. Every bit of this film was shot on location. So this film is like 99% shot in where it says it was. And we had to work around that schedule. So we actually worked around the school scheduling. When there's a high school, we shot it around the school. When there was a bakery, we actually shot around the bakery hours. I mean, and we're working with folks that are volunteering. I mean, they would literally, folks like yourself, volunteering the bakery, volunteering the school, and giving us full access that we were trying to make it work to the best possibility, and scheduling all these folks all at once. It was a juggling act to make sure that we had, someone who's a singer, April's a singer, and getting her on set in between the places where she's actually singing, bringing in our UFC fighter, who's actually a coach and running a camp for fighting. So all these things is just working with just so many factors of people coming in and volunteering their time, but also volunteering the locations. I mean, we have the city hall, where the mayor's at. We had the
Police station.
An actual police station.
Great.
I mean, we were having like restaurants that were real restaurants. They weren't. When you see the restaurant, it's not a fake restaurant. When you see these
sets.
homes, these sets, they are real homes. They aren't built. They are everybody's scheduling. And so here we were, is working with every bit of the community. Literally, the community was saying, I've got my house, I've got my bakery, I've got my store, I've got my restaurant. We had the mayors, not just one mayor, but 2 or 3 generations.
Yep.
You have 3 generations of mayors of Daly City who said, we know what you're doing.
We want a part of it.
Yeah.
But that was strategic in terms of shooting because we knew that we had to pull favors from everyone, and so the locations were really people in the bakery. We knew and of course my high school.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was really pulling from your favors and stuff. And then my favorite moment is for Edward. So there's a scene in here, right? If you've seen the trailer, you know that the legendary Danny Trejo plays Machetes in the movie. And we're a bit of a spoiler, but the biggest moment for me shooting the film was when, out of all the actors that had worked with me as a kid in Daly City, it was Edward who shared the scene with Danny Trejo. And I will not spoil that scene, but just seeing them two together, it told you here we are. Started out as a bunch of kids playing, making movies together, and the sandbox has gotten bigger now, where a Hollywood legend has joined us, and just to see that scene together really, it just told already. It just visually already, it measured exactly how far we've come. And so, how did it feel, Edward, to be shooting that scene?
Be honest, it was surreal. I would consider it more of humble beginnings. You know what I mean? Like, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Where it's like we started from nothing. And then now here I am and acting with this, Hollywood actor, and it was quite the experience. I feel blessed, to be able to be a part of it, but more so to be a part of the movement of what we're doing here, which is, putting brown people on the map, on silver screen, and doing this Asian American film. So, I think that's what, the biggest key takeaway from the whole thing.
And that's the thing. If you look at this picture, April and Earl, seeing the people behind the scenes, what do you remember the most about being on set? Now that you've been on the set, Blindspotting, and you now looking back.
Yeah, it's a trip because we've been having these panels for about a year now. But just hearing these guys talk right now, I kind of just had a new realization. And it's so crazy. I feel like this movie is basically a time capsule of how the world was pre-COVID. And just my heart's racing right now. Because right now you try and have conversations with people and you meet new people, and it's that curiosity doesn't seem to be reciprocated anymore the same way that it used to. And just hearing the way you were talking about community building And I was taking notes here, and it's like people offering their homes, people volunteering their schools, and just really that community. We kind of took that word for granted in the past before, but now just hearing you guys talk about it more and more, it's like, wow,
It's beautiful.
this really was community. Like, this is what that means. And you know, if you were here before we started, like in that pre-show where we were drawing these awesome things, we were kind of talking about how like conversation and connecting, human connection is becoming a lost art, especially after the last 3 years.
Because of social media.
Because, I mean, social media definitely plays a part in that. And also just not having been able to see people or see people's smiles behind their masks for so long. Not that I was against masks or anything. I'm all about what's protecting everyone. But, it's just 3 years, everybody being indoors, not being able to fully express themselves, even through art, really took a toll on our society and on our relationships. And so, yeah, to answer your question, like, look at these pictures, man.
Yeah.
Look at all those smiles. Like, that was a manifestation.
It takes a village.
It takes a village. And it was a manifestation of everyone's, like, motivation and the fire inside that's so hard to, like, find these days now.
And
That's
that picture, I would say like probably 90% of those people were all volunteers.
Yeah. And
Believe it or not.
What I wanted to bring up is the very matter is like these are families and friends, and we're not talking. If you look at it, it is a diverse collage of tonality.
Yeah.
It's not just brown and dark brown, but we have all kinds of folks coming in from who are not just strictly Filipino, but believe in the Filipino community as a cultural and to be that's shared in that. And that's the beautiful thing is that the diversity that we had and the understanding of what it meant, what community and culture means. It's not a singular thing. It's a wide thing that comes together that makes a whole.
Right.
Oh,
Can I add to that? Also, yeah, like what you were saying, you could see all the diversity in that photo, and I feel like the last 3 years kind of divided that a little more, or separated what used to be solid. Even in the Bay Area, like I grew up in the Bay Area, and ever since preschool, we were a very diverse group of people, and I seen the last few years really broke my heart, and the amount of hate that people have, and so to just all the words that are encompassed in this photo is just really giving me hope that maybe we can come back to that.
And Earl, do you want to comment?
I just do want to say that, like, sorry. We definitely caught like lightning in a bottle with like this cast and crew. One of the things, and I mean and I think it's actually becoming more common in certain pockets. But like, if you take if you go out and work a professional crew, professional shoot. It's not like this. This is very much was very much a family atmosphere, and when you see the film, you'll see you'll see the love that's like put into it, and you'll see the community there.
What we have is a snapshot of what could be. It's not something that happened. That's I don't want folks to think that this is a once in a lifetime thing. It's like what we're showing is this is what filmmaking can be: diverse, open, and a community. Open it up to just within each community and the diversity, and you'll find that ideas and creation and magic happens because you're exposing so many different things on so many different levels, as opposed to what you're used to. Like most sets in the professional world, as you and I have known, like working on, like I said, I worked on The Matrix and worked on The Incredible Hulk, and you know, the type of crew that I've seen has not been at all like this. And we don't operate for reasons as a family per se, or as familiar like I'm working with my cousin. I honestly felt this brought me back to working on a house with my cousins, building a home, paving the road. You know, we come together, we eat together, and we create some magic, sing some songs at the end of the day. That's exactly what I was feeling. But in this case, we're making a movie.
And in this case, even though COVID did keep us away from each other,
Yes.
this blessing came together because we were still promoting the movie, and this is what came off of us collaborating because of the pandemic.
Yes.
We're here through the last 10 minutes of our panel to really talk about, really the panel's about, from Lumpia movie to Lumpia comic book. So why not? You know, the movie is a comic book film, and for us to grow up like this, to go into Comic-Con, to make your own comic book was always a dream. Little did I know that, and I don't know why I've never asked, but like our producer here is a comic book artist in the industry. I found out that our assistant stunt coordinator was also an artist. And so what came together during the pandemic, we did this thing called LumpiaCon, and then we, just for fun, because we missed San Diego Comic-Con, so we created our own live stream, LumpiaCon, and we invited all of our friends, Will Patricio, one of our legendary Filipino artists and one of our dear friends, Bobby Rubio, who's Pixar, Ruby Ibarra, and all of us, we were just kind of nerding out with like all of us, and together we crowdfunded using our supporters and our community to crowdfund our first comic book, this Prelude here, which was supposed to be filling the gap between the original Lumpia film and Lumpia the Vengeance. So that was kind of our goal, and when we crowdfunded, same thing with the movie. Even though the movie is already at that point taking 8 years to kind of complete, here we are trying to make a comic book, another project, right before the world premiere of our film in Hawaii. And so that was a blessing. And again, I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, please do, here's your free gift for being on our panel, the free digital comic book. But Lawrence, talk about really the making the comic book and how was just the process of it.
It's incredible. You have to think about this. This is during COVID. So we're communicating this idea, based upon our fanboy missing and fangirls missing, going to Comic-Con, because we are comic book nerds as a whole. We miss the promoting. So here we are coming together, discussing an idea of like, hey, let's like make a comic book. And it's just amazing the people that responded during this broadcast, the streaming. And we have Bobby Rubio from Pixar, who's award-winning short film director for
Bobby's cover here.
He did a dedication to Frank Miller's Daredevil, and then when you have one of our stunt folks, Dante Fernandez, who actually is a big fan of traditional artwork and whatnot, and is also a comic book fan. We have Will Spartasio, who's the co-creator of the Bishop from the X-Men, and we have Patrick Ballesteros, who's also a main hit in the comic book world and comic as far as with his artwork. And we have all these guys coming down and sharing this love, and to do a comic book, to say why not? Why not have a comic book that is made by Filipinos about a Filipino comic book hero?
By the same filmmakers.
Not someone else.
We're not throwing it to Marvel or DC to make it for us. We're just like, we're just doing it ourselves.
We know the story. Why are we giving it to someone else? And it also became a thing where we were doing stories that we couldn't so-called afford. I mean, the comic book costs you nothing to write the script and to so-called shoot it. We're drawing it on a piece of paper. So I was able to actually pitch one of the stories that I wanted to, that was dedicated to the film The Warriors, of a scene that I've always wanted to see, you know, that would have cost us like tens of thousands of dollars to do on the big screen. But instead, you know, we wrote a chapter. I was able to get a chance to write a chapter about these hidden chapters, and that was the thing, is that it gave us a whole world, a whole deep fried universe to expand on.
Yeah, and the deep fried universe came from our supporters. So like, we never say DFU. That came from really during the pandemic. Someone put it out, and we just owned it now. Deep fried universe.
It's ours. Trademark.
And again, we talked about that second issue was crowdfunded because of the success of the first. It was the prelude, interlude, and then the third issue, the postlude. So it was all, if you've seen the Lumpia with a Vengeance, it was us giving a chance to expand upon the stories behind the scenes. So my question, April, how did it feel to see yourself in comic book form?
Weird. I never do. Oh my god, this is so crazy. So one of the first webcasts we did for the LumpiaCon over COVID, it was just me and Pat, and I remember telling him in the webcast, I was like, you know what? It'd be freaking awesome to be at Comic-Con one day, on the panel, as a featured, you know, guest.
Artist.
I mean, I wish I was as good of I'm a great artist, guys. But I remember saying that in our broadcast, just for fun, because I love to dream, you know? And then all of a sudden,
You're there.
Comic-Con special edition happened, and we were able to go to that, and then we got invited back for WonderCon, Comic-Con in San Diego, and now here, and it's like, now it just won't stop. When at one point I was like, this is impossible, it's never gonna happen, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and here we are. So to be on a comic book, I'm still not used to it.
And I think the cool part is that we're
awesome.
we're only continuing this because our fans and supporters keep wanting to see more. And so now we had a spin-off with Gemini. Our villain in the movie gets her own spin-off. And then we announced over in the San Diego Comic-Con, we debuted our first the legendary Lumpia squad, right? And spoiler alert, but yeah, this is the squad that appears after the film. And Earl, what do you think about seeing yourself here, drawn by the amazing Steven Sokovia here?
Steven Sokovia.
For DC Comics, detective and Batman illustrator, one of the highest regarded.
I always marvel at, like, when a new cover comes out, I'm like, why can't I actually look like that?
What are you talking about? Man, look at the muscles, man.
You just don't have your glasses on.
Oh, yeah, I know. And we need to find out what happened to wardrobe. But yeah, our artists are amazingly skilled, and I always, it's amazing what they do, and how they take these characters that we created in a movie and turn them into something for print media. You know, it's great to me.
Yeah, and that's cool. And again, this story that we're weaving is also giving us a chance as creators to kind of we taking ideas. And even one of our executive producers started writing his character into more of the stories. I think it's because he wanted to make sure that he lives in the next movie. So look, there are creative ways of doing it, and I'm not hating, but I'm just saying that this is a community effort, right?
That's
so
right.
A lot of it is really leading to things. This cover here, we do have a Emerald City Comic Con exclusive drawn by Lawrence here. It's at our booth if you haven't. So this is only exclusive to 75 copies. So do come out our booth after this panel. Lawrence is here at least until tomorrow, and he'll sign copies. And April's here tonight. We'll do a signing at 4:00 at our booth today, and so check that out. But people are asking now, what happens after this? You know, what happens after the Legend of Lumpia Squad, right? Oh, we also have the DFU combo. So we talk about the Deep Fried Universe. If you want an entry point, obviously without seeing the movies, we do have a special combo, our special trade paperback now that collects all 3 issues, and you get a choice of Gemini #1 and Squad issue 1 while supplies that. So yes, we have the DFU combo. We have a trade paperback edition. Awesome. That's my sales pitch. And of course, the next way community building is offered through Discord. So if you get a chance. We're trying to enter Web3. I think we did Kickstarter, but now we're still slowly building on Discord so that maybe this is the way how to fund our future comic books. projects in issue number 2. So do join in our Kid Heroes verse, because that's where the movies came out, right, Ed?
That's
Kid
right.
Heroes, Kid Heroes. So now we're bringing Kid Heroes to you. Hopefully, you can join us and share, continue this DFU together. What is the next project here? This is the next project we announced at San Diego Comic-Con, and this is about the mobile DJ scene. And with Filipinos, especially in the growing up in Daly City, the Filipino community, especially DJ Qbert, we're always about the mobile DJ community. So this is a project that I've been developing as a feature for so long, for 10 years. And now we decided to come into together. And Baon here, who's co-creating this with DJ Dynamics, David Frezzo. This is called the Ones and Twos. Ed, talk about what the Ones and Twos is about.
Well, basically, it's about how a DJ came about, how DJ world came about, Everyone knows the elements of hip hop, rapping, dancing, breakdancing, graffiti, and DJing. So basically, it's a story about a young DJ who gets influenced by their older brother, sister, or whatnot, going to those garage parties that I'm sure many of you guys have attended when you guys were younger. And how he was influenced into becoming a battle DJ like DJ Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, DJ Shortcut, John, and his story on how he came about and became a world-renowned DJ.
Yeah, and this is the recorded of the DFU now, back in the late 80s, early 90s, or going back, and we haven't started a crowdfunder yet. If you do scan this QR code, if we hit 100 followers on the Kickstarter, we are definitely going to launch it. I think we're currently at 40 right now. So if you do want to see this, again, we only make it if people really want to see it, because God knows it's expensive to make. So that's the Ones and Twos that's coming up, and of course, hopefully we follow up the Lumpia stuff. And of course, the other thing, what's going to happen in the movies, something you already know, but we're going to debut now the new revised trailer that's now going to be playing on Fandango.
Whoa.
Yes, here we go.
Fandango?
Oh. Did it play? No, it didn't.
Kamusta kababayan ko? All my sexy panoys and panay.
Welcome to Fogtown, where over 60% of the population is Filipino.
Can you confirm that the restaurant incident is the work of the so-called Taquito Man?
What? This is the taquito
Joey
everyone is
Dia.
talking about? It's not a taquito.
It's Lumpia, the Filipino egg roll. The motives of the Lumpia Man are still unknown.
Lumpia Man knows we're selling out of Fogtown High.
What did I tell you about these kids? Love that and love that.
The sniper took down the mayor as planned.
My henchmen are trained to be 100% efficient.
Is that the egg roll, man?
No, it ain't him.
Go! Hey, you can't eat that. Remember me? You're my hero.
Now's not the time to change the plan.
What plan?
What the?
Please tell me you're a good guy.
It's too Filipino.
It's like soy sauce and salsa. Getting married.
All merged together in harmony. Screw your mama's wedding. Fight the bully. You're all wrong. It's all because we damn Lumpia Man.
No more. No. Fogtown will remember me. Taquito Boy.
So it's on now on sale right now, and of course, you have it ready. You can actually buy your tickets. Regal's giving us this rare opportunity. Again, we're self-distributed, but we're going to be playing nationwide in 30 cities all around the country with Regal, Cinemark. Here in Seattle, we're going to be playing next right across the street in Meridian. Tickets just went on sale today in coordination with Emerald City Comic Con. So we encourage you to please come out opening weekend. Here in Seattle, I believe We started September 30th in San Diego, Long Beach, and San Francisco, and Daly City, but we'll come to Seattle on October 14th, as well as Renton and Lakewood on the 21st. Very important to come on opening weekend, Friday, Sunday. I know there are already buy-outs coming out, but again, just like Easter Sunday, we're trying to put our community on the map, and what more than this really fun Lumpia film. And you already know that this is not just for Filipinos, right? This is a fun community Lumpia-loving film. So we encourage you. We don't have the marketing budget. We don't have studio backing. We don't have the marketing budget is really the budget of my day job, my full-time salary. So we are fueled by word of mouth. We're fueled by you guys. And you already seen it from the beginning. You willed this movie into existence. So when people always ask us, how you're getting this movie into theaters, who's distributing this film?
It's you.
We say you. You did this. Your fault. So
tell your friends, tell your aunts,
help
uncles,
us feel
tita,
it. We have postcards,
titos.
posters. If you want posters, we'll even give you posters to put in your restaurants or businesses. But a lot of it is making an outing. Reserve that weekend, and we'll announce which cities we'll hopefully break up to and see you guys.
Before you guys leave, take a flyer.
And
show it to your friends.
Yes, and if you buy a movie ticket now and show it to us at the booth, we'll give you a print of your choice, including the 1s and 2s. You get a free print. So any of these prints you'll get, just show us the movie ticket during ECCC. And yeah, we'll be here. We'll have the signing. Any other announcements? No, I don't have. I think that's it. Yes.
Just remember, opening weekend, folks, is really, really important for any film. It's not, I'll catch it later on. Opening weekend is where everybody sees and watches, and you actually can determine the future of Filipino cinema. If folks see that we're selling out a film over that opening weekend, it actually attracts so many other filmmakers, and it's not just us. It actually puts the next level for Filipino filmmakers and just films in general to show that we are worth investing in. We are something that you want to see, and your voice really comes down to getting that ticket, filling that seat, or buying a ticket for someone else, regardless if you're part of that city or not, is to fill those seats.
Yeah, instead of donating, just watch the movie, tell your friends.
Yeah, exactly. So just have someone who can't make the film. Just expose the film, but opening weekend, more than anything, is allow this film to be seen in the theater on an opening weekend, and you will make a major difference.
Yep.
You could also rent out a theater or do group sales
buyouts,
and then
yeah.
have Lumpia.
And Lumpia, yes.
For your party.
That's right.
Is there any question? I know we're already running out of time, but we can open it to a few questions if anyone has questions. If not, you can always talk to us later here at the booth. Yes.
So not having seen the first movie, how do we get caught up?
Ooh, yeah.
Excellent question.
That's the most common question. Have you seen the first film? I will always suggest to watch the second film first and then go backwards. And maybe it's because I haven't fully owned yet the homemade film, but there is definitely renewal with the homemade movie. It is on DVD. We haven't really opened up to the streaming part yet because obviously it depends really how this movie does.
Yes.
But it's out there. There's still copies.
People
we
are
ran
still
out
buying
of Comic-Con. The remaining DVDs we did have, we ran
sold out. Like people bought multiple copies.
But I will tease this then. Maybe I should give a tease to ECCC is that next year we are celebrating the 15th year anniversary of the original Lumpia film.
Yeah.
So we just never know how we're going to celebrate the 15th year. And with the release coming out with this, it's just inevitable. Hopefully we get a distributor for
There definitely be Lumpia involved, right?
Yes.
I vote Battle Royale to the death.
What about Blu-ray that comes with a Lumpia packed in it?
There you go. We'll just smash the Lumpia inside.
And the current film does hold on its own. I mean, really, it does fill in the gaps. Like when you watch the story, Pat and the folks, they wrote it in such a way where you could actually go to the film and get the whole gist of it. And it is like Pat's saying, like you see this first film, I mean, you see Lumpia with Avengers on the big screen, and then you actually go back and watch the original. You will be blown away, just like how did it go from?
I just encourage people to watch the first movie first because they may think Lumpia Avengers is the same homemade nature, and I'm like,
it was VHS, okay, VHS. Some of you guys in this room don't even know what a VHS is.
Can we release a version on VHS?
But the movie's out there, and just like how the original Kid Heroes was circulated on a VHS tape, If you have a DVD, I would say share the Lumpia love. If you still own the Lumpia DVD, share the love, because I know on eBay it's going for too much money. But we will, if there's demand, we will make sure that we take care of everyone and watch the original movie.
And make it an eating game, Anytime you see the Lumpia get crunched, do the same thing, and then and this newest movie definitely is like an eating game. When you see the.
If you see a lumpia, you take a bite of it.
We need
Take
to
a
get
drink.
like throwable lumpia.
It's like there's the throwing, the eating, just
like
all
plush
kinds of stuff.
throwable lumpia.
But the trade paperback is also available, which I'm very proud of what we were able to do as comic book writers, is that it includes the prelude, which bridges the gap between the first and second film, and also gives you behind stories that is a little bit more deeper and a little bit more elaborated. And it also has the interlude, like I said, those expanded scenes, which is cool because once you see this film and you read the interlude, you go, oh my gosh, that scene happens between these two scenes. This story happens between these two stories, which I'm very, very, very proud and happy about. And the third chapter, the postlude, which we'll see at the end of the movie, you can say, I know what happens to these guys. So it gives you we as a whole have given a deep fried universe that you could expand on, that folks can write, and enjoy, that there's more to the story in the movie, because you as a fan can actually go, oh my God, I know what's happening between here, I know what's happening over here. But just like the Marvel Universe has its own personal stories of each of the characters, I'm proud to be part of a project with my culture, the community, that expands characters of such diversity, such flavor, that is a lot truer to people that I know and people that I'm related to, as well as the mirror that I look into. And you too will see something familiar. You will see family, you will see friends, you will see familiar places that you work with, and not just characterizations and not stereotypes. You will see something that's been missing in a great deal of work, and we're hoping to start that trend. So buy that ticket, and you will see the change in the industry, cinematically as well as comic book, because what we're doing is something that is just really, really new, and it comes from you, your voices, and your heart. And I thank you so much for making that possible.
All right.
Thanks for
Question.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got one question?
Any more questions?
Oh, no, you're good. Hey. Over, yeah. All right, so thank you. We'll be at the booth at 4 o'clock with signing, and you can meet us there at 4 o'clock and on. Thank you so much. I love that, Lumpia!